Good morning and welcome to Painting in Your PJs with Minette. I am Dr. Minette Riordan, super excited to be here with all of you. I am a purpose, passion, and creativity coach that is really committed to helping women in midlife and beyond reconnect to that core essence of their most authentic self and to find their purpose and their next direction in life. And I like doing all of that with art because sometimes when we're having an identity crisis, it feels like this dark night of the soul, and we can't see our way out of where we are in the moment. And what I love about intuitive art practices and especially intuitive collage is it allows us to bypass our very busy overthinking minds and to reconnect with our hearts. Good morning, Yvonne. Excuse me. Spring allergies definitely hitting this week. And when I started to think about what I wanted, hi Carol, what I wanted to create this morning, I want to continue with our theme of intuitive art. And I keep thinking about this idea of home. I had this beautiful conversation with a friend yesterday talking about what are the things that make us feel safe or secure. And I may have shared this story before. I've shared it in some of my classes that when I was in seventh grade, our house burnt down. And when something like that happens, it's like having the rug pulled out from under you. And I was well into adulthood before I recognized that uncertainty has led me to want the opposite, to want a home base. In fact, when Brad and I were looking a couple of years ago at where to go. We knew we were going to leave Santa Barbara and we weren't sure where we were going to go. And we were looking at different places and locations, and we thought about doing the van life or RV life for a year, sell the house, put everything in storage, and go travel for a year. And I realized I couldn't do that. I needed a home base. Now, I would love to go have an RV or a van and do the travel thing, but I need home to come to. And being rooted and grounded in space is something that's super important to me. And I was out for my morning walk yesterday, and my beloved Longs Peak up in Estes Park in Rocky Mountain National Park was just glowing in the light and the clouds. And it reminded me of home has a lot of different feelings for different people. So what I want to do this morning, the idea that I have, we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna, as you know, I have an idea. I don't know where it's going. I want to create a tag or a set of tags that create a sacred space on the page, that create a sense and a feeling of what does home mean to me, and even have something that maybe I could take with me. So when I'm traveling and I'm away, I can stick it in my journal or stick it in a book as a bookmark, but something that reminds me that I carry that sacred space within, because home is a place. It can be a structure or a building, but it's also a feeling of being at home in the world, of being at home in ourselves. And so I'm curious to explore all of that this morning, and we're going to see where it goes. And I'm going to go ahead and change cameras. And if you're listening live, my coffee cup, I'd love for you to share words or thoughts or ideas. What is your definition of home? What does home mean to you? Finish up that cup of coffee, get it out of the way. And hi, Georgia. You want to come say hi? And Georgia says good morning. And I took a minute to just quickly print out a couple of the pictures that I took on my walk yesterday morning. We're not sure what these trees are. They might be like a mock cherry of some kind, but they have such beautiful blooms. This is a pair of the trees. This is the trees up close. And then here's a photograph of Longs Peak. Is the little peak on the right there. I'm pretty far away from it. And it's the perfect size for creating on a tag. I also think when we're creating intuitively with collage, don't forget to use your own photographs. People often ask me where to source images, how to find images. Well, go look in your phone or in your camera. I have decades and decades full of flower photos because I love taking pictures of flower photos. And a friend of mine gave me such a beautiful idea the other day about how she used some of her own photos as inspiration for journaling and turned them into a book. Good morning, Miss Judy. Welcome, welcome. I had a catch-up chat with Allie yesterday, final details, and getting so excited. I leave early Saturday morning to head to Massachusetts for an art retreat and get to hug Judy in person. So here's what I've gathered this morning. If you're thinking about working along or you're curious about what I'm up to and you're stopping by, so I've gathered a couple of tags. These are left over from a project I did. Hi, Lisa. Good morning. Thank you, my friend. I'm sure I'm going to come back so inspired and full of all kinds of creative ideas. I'm excited to teach, but I'm just as excited to be a student. And these were part of a project last year. This was acrylic inks through a stencil, and I loved the effect of them, and I have a whole bunch of them. And this feels like it's probably going to have a quote on it, maybe home is where the heart is, or home is wherever I am, or I'm at home with myself, some kind of maybe fun quote on this one. I don't know yet, but I was feeling like some kind of layered sacred space or story that's going to emerge. We'll see how it goes. I had some leftover bits from, okay, Georgia. All right, she is not being helpful, as you can see. She's like sitting half on the table. She's on my arm. I've got some leftover collage bits. I love these bluebonnets. They remind me of Texas. I hope so. I hope you're going to come in October, Lisa, to our Creative Renaissance retreat. Hopefully, hoping I will have information about that very soon. Yes, paws are very helpful. I know you love paper. So these are some scrappy bits. It felt like texture felt really important. Good morning, Judy. And handwriting is important. So I'm thinking about what are all the things. My connection to nature is super, super important to me. So this little girl felt like a good representation also of finding home. I loved these different botanical stamped or designed images on here. Ooh, and there's some great flowers on here. But then this is a feather I found on my walk yesterday. Look how beautiful that is. And I've got some beads that kind of match the colors. And I have some unicorn charms because why not? Who doesn't love a good unicorn? And I was the kid. I didn't have posters in my bedroom walls of rock stars or models or anything like that. I had the famous tapestry of the girl in the forest with the unicorn in her lap, right? So even from a young age, I had very artsy posters. And of course, who doesn't love a unicorn? All right, Miss Georgia, off you go, sweetheart. And I've got some yarn. And I've got a needle and thread. I even threaded the needle already so that I wouldn't have to waste time trying to do that while I'm on the call. And these are some of the yarns that we have purchased for our upcoming retreat in June called the Time Travelers Retreat. And I love textural things. I love hanging bits and bobs. So when I started to think about home and how could I recreate that feeling of home and home as sacred place on the page, these were just some of the things that occurred to me. I also, in typical Minette fashion, did some journaling on the tag about what does home mean to me first. And I shared that with you, that sense of being rooted in place, of having a place to go to. It's a place where family gathers and connects. Like my grandmother's home growing up was a big part of that. And I think when I just do those other, there they are, that maybe I want to kind of create on both of these at the same time, or maybe this one even might get a hole cut in it so it becomes like a window into what's underneath. That sounds kind of fun. So maybe I'm going to start with that. Do I have a cutting mat anywhere? You know, nothing is ever where you need it in the moment. And how about a journal? Okay, Minette is disorganized this morning because, of course, I'm thinking on the fly. And when you have a studio full of all the things, that is what happens, right? Is that, you know, the things that you need are always somewhere else. So rather than an X-Acto knife, we'll see if we can just do this with a pair of scissors. So what I'm feeling is that I want to, and I'm just going to eyeball this, no ruler. If you know me by now, I am not, leave a little more room there. I am not a perfectionist. And I even want this to look like a window. Let's see, so that's half, 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 just kind of eyeballing that. And I'm going to cut out these little squares in here to kind of represent that sense of a peekaboo window. I love it. Home is where my dog is, where the sun shines, where I am surrounded by all things creative, where I gather with friends and family, where I keep the things that nurture my body, mind, and spirit. You should write that down, Carol. That is beautiful. All right, where are my tiny scissors? There they are. And there is an X-Acto knife in here, so if I'm careful, an X-Acto knife would be easier. And nobody's going to notice when I cut this apart if these squares are even or not. It's going to get lost in that ultimate design. But there's something in a home for me where, in fact, I was looking at some other retreat spaces this week, and my husband's like, well, what about this one? This is kind of nice. And I'm like, there's no light, there's no windows. And so for me, a home has to always have windows, but so does creative space. Okay, this is clearly an old X-Acto knife. All right, this is not going to be very exciting to watch for just a minute. So as a quick reminder, I will not be here next week because I will be in Massachusetts at Snow Farm teaching at an art retreat there. So excited. It's going to be a busy summer. And then, well, it's going to be a busy June, and then I'm home all of July and August. Yay! But next week I will be in Massachusetts, then I come home for a week, then I host my own retreat, and then like 2 days later we're going to turn around and drive to Oregon where my daughter is graduating from university. And we thought she was coming home, but she's been offered a job doing her dream work at her university. Very exciting. So we're going to have this fun little sneaky window in here. And I want to talk about this idea of making our home a sacred space. And what do I mean by sacred? So for me, what I mean by sacred is that we treat it with reverence. You know, my husband and I love being home. We can definitely fall into hermit mode. And it's not about just comfort, but this idea of reverence means that we treat our home with loving care and attention, like making sure the front yard gets weeded, neither of our favorite job to do, keeping it clean of dust and cat hair, which is really hard to do, but also making it beautiful to us and making it comfortable. For me, making a home sacred is also about creating a space of welcome so that everyone feels welcome here. Okay, we're getting there. So I may finish up just a few pieces. Carol, how far are you away from Portland? I can't remember what part of, or where do you live now? So Washington is your home state, but that's not where you are currently, correct? Okay, I'm going to love this window, but I don't want to spend my whole hour cutting that out, and I need a better X-Acto knife to do that. So I will finish up that window bit a little bit later, or I may get lazy and cut out a bigger square. We'll see. So let's come back here. So when I started to think about sacred space, I knew, and home and where I'm from, I knew I needed to have a picture of Long's Peak in my collage. The Native Americans that were here in the early days called this Beaver Mountain. There's this wonderful rock. You can't see it in this tiny picture, but they called it Beaver Mountain because there's this wonderful rock that looks like a beaver. 3.5 to 4 hours from Portland. Okay, awesome. I'm going to be back the last weekend in June. I am going to be at Andrea Chebelou's beautiful new home outside of Portland for a girls' weekend and retreat, which I am super excited about. So connection to nature is that other thing that's super important to me. And notice I'm covering up the background. I don't really care what's in the background. But what's missing here is maybe some texture. So when I create tags, what I love creating is layers and texture, and that's where that mixed media piece comes in. This may need some stitching. I may take it over to my sewing machine. I have some wonderful old lace pieces from my stepdad's family that I have kept and carried. I have pieces like this that I purchased or people have given to me. There's something about this little girl and something that feels like the nostalgia here that feels really important. And I thought this was going to be the window one, but I'm kind of thinking, so I might change my mind. Fortunately, I have lots of tags. And it's really important to me that I get some writing in there because having a sacred space to write is really important and feels like home to me. So maybe we put a little piece of that in there, and maybe we get to keep it simple, right? Sometimes I get overexcited and these things start to get more and more complicated. And maybe they don't need to be, but I do need these. So here we don't have bluebonnets, but we do have lupin. We have beautiful, huge lupin. So there's that nostalgic sense of home, there's that current sense of home. Notice there's no physical structure or picture of home. And I'm wondering if, maybe one of the cards might be the card that has that picture of home on it. It doesn't quite fit on there. So I'm just configuring, playing, like this is the fun part of intuitive collage, trying not to rush. This leftover scrappy bit is so pretty. I love this little bit of blue fabric here. Okay, I'm going to finish one tag. I can feel myself going, I don't know what's next. And making some decisions. I might need bigger tags. This is true. I probably don't need bigger tags. I just need less stuff. And so the cool thing about working intuitively this way is what happens is that it forces us to choose. It forces us to, not to overexcite you even more, but if you do an art poetry class, I'm in. So I love that, Lisa. And pretty much when I teach live, especially, there is always poetry. So I can promise you there will be art and poetry in the fall. And last year for National Poetry Month, I did a whole month here on the YouTube channel of poems and mixed media art journal pages. Again, not being perfectionistic about this, letting it hang over the edges while I figure out where it goes. Okay, we're going to get this paper down first because it went behind. I think one thing I'm noticing is the difference between the printed pages are very matte and the, magazine and book images are just a little bit glossy. I wasn't thinking about home as nostalgia, but this gives me that feeling of nostalgia. So I've been coming to Colorado pretty much every summer. Missed a few in my, college and young parenting years, but it's rare that I've missed a year to be here. The first time we came was in 1976. We stayed at these wonderful cottages when my parents ended up becoming good friends with the owners of the cottage. Right on one of the rivers in Estes, such a treat. And eventually my parents, would come for a week, then 2 weeks, and then they finally found a house to rent for the whole summer. And my mom finally said, I'm staying here. I don't want to go back to Texas. And so over 40 years ago now, she moved to Estes Park full time. And so in the summers, we would come bring our kids here. So there's a sense of rootedness in this place, even though I've only been here in Loveland in this house for just about 2 years. I have deep roots in Colorado and a deep love of the rocks here. I think I like this blue fabric. Let's see if we can get that to stick down. I'm covering up all my writing. I know it's there. I don't need to see it. No one else needs to see it. And I'm gluing the fabric and the lace down, and I am thinking I will go run the edges of this through my sewing machine later to kind of finish that off. she was going to go on another collage, but she just said she needed to be here. And one of the things I love about the mountains is how many stars you can see, right? How many stars you can see. So getting that more complete sense. And for me, intuitive art is so much about trusting. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and he was talking about, one of the questions to ask yourself are you back? You're back. George is back. To ask yourself every day is, what is my next right action? What is my next right action? And I love that question. And I think it's a powerful question even to ask ourselves when we're creating intuitively. And for me, more intentional approach to art is, I have an image in my head, like I'm going to paint a coyote, or I'm going to paint a cat, or right now I need to paint a puppy picture for a friend of mine. And there's an image that I'm recreating, whether that image is in my head or a photograph or something I created on AI, and then I'm transferring and translating to canvas. But intuitive art is simply asking, what's next? What goes here? Looking through the images, or doing this with color, looking at a painting and saying, what color is next? Or what palette would make my heart happy today? What's the right next step to take? And really trusting that. And when we start to do that in our art, it can start to flow over into the rest of our lives as well. Okay, now I have a decision to make. All right. I am going to, if I don't like it, I have a bazillion tags, and this one will get used for something else. So I'm going to let go of the first window idea and create a bigger window because I want to see more of what's underneath peeking through. Yet I still want it to be a frame, and the frame is going to move. I'm just going to poke that paper both ways to get it back, to get that hole present there. And sometimes I'll take a hole punch and do that. And look, I still have this really cool piece of paper I get to use for another project. I saw an awl is a great thing to use to punch holes. Pair of scissors works great. A needle works great. Sometimes a hole punch, if you have a small one, I have a few small ones, they don't like the holes in the tags. So my good thing here is that this is going to move around like a viewfinder. So we'll see different parts of the image. Okay, so I love that. And then if we have one more on the top, so that window is kind of sneaky, right? And so then we have to move this one out of the way too, or flip this one up. And when I'm creating a collective like this, binder clips are a great thing to use on these as our, I'm going to use some of this yarn today, this textured yarn. And I'm not sure it needs that. It may just stop right here and be in this viewfinder. I definitely feel like it wants this butterfly wants to be part of the story. So what if it was also up here and started to kind of flip up I like the colors pulling through. I feel like this needs a brighter color on it so that frame stands out. But that might be fun. Or what if it was added on down here and this piece was still kind of movable that way? So this is another part of that intuitive experience, is just simply trying things on for size. Oh my gosh, Lisa, I'm so happy for you. Yay! I'm glad you said that, because I'm like, I want some kind of quote or words, and maybe they're going to go on the back of the tag. But I need to use my typewriter to create those. I was like, which is what I love and bought it for. Okay, decisions, decisions. Does that butterfly really? Nope. All right, it needs a butterfly, but this is too big, and I'm having resistance to cutting this up because I love that fabric in the back, but I really want this butterfly on there. This is all hand stitched and hand painted fabrics. I love painting on fabric. Okay, much better. Now I can decide a little more definitely where this is going to go. And I think like a curtain, it's just going to hang right there up at the top. All right. I almost am thinking, do I want a full-size tag to give that illusion of a window? So bear with me. I'm going to go get a bigger tag and try that. What I got for Mother's Day, I love that you said that. So Brad gave me an adorable little pink stuffed octopus that I need to post on Instagram. And I saw these pictures on Instagram, and I sent them to my husband and my daughter, of these giant snuggle dragons. And I have a thing for dragons. And so my son and my daughter went together and ordered me a giant snuggle dragon. And I cannot wait to get it. They're not available yet, but they will be. Okay, so now, all right, I'm not going to worry about that. How big a window do I want? That is the question. So using, my camera seems to have moved. There we go. I need it closer towards me. And I have always loved stuffed animals since I was a kid, and I have never really stopped loving them. So I'm going to use this tag as a straight edge. And I have a fun little assorted collection of different stuffed animals, lots of little beanie babies, a beautiful stuffed bear I bought myself when we were in Yellowstone or in the Grand Tetons a couple of years ago. All right, get that poked in there. So as I'm working on this, I'm also present to, I have to be willing to waste supplies. I have to be willing to try this, knowing it may not work, and I may end up tossing this tag in the garbage. And I have to remember it's just paper. Usually I try to recycle things and use them differently, like even as a note card or Like this would be great for doing some jelly printing on or making a pocket somewhere. Ooh, I could create a pocket on here. So lots of ideas. So I try to reuse things and I'm always willing to let things go and not hold things too tightly or too preciously. Okay, that makes way more sense to have this nice big window. Now we can have this nice butterfly at the top. So for me, I have moved homes a lot. We have owned a number of homes since we've been married. And, through my college and grad school years, moved around quite a bit. And always I needed to make things feel like home. Okay, this is so funny. I did some handwriting to create this paper on these old book pages, and I pulled words that were in the book pages, and this one says vigorous delights. So for some reason that vigorous delights here wants to go on the bottom of my frame. So we're just going to add that on there. Again, just trusting the process, and it feels like this needs some color. I have been painting so much with orange lately. I'm still not sure about that butterfly. I almost feel like I want like a butterfly hanging up off the corner. What, Diego? I know. My cats are having a moment of going crazy. So this feels like a really cool portal. Maybe I want it to feel a little more magical. Make this stand out. I'm debating, but I do want some color on this. And then I'm looking at what do I have sitting right here that I could quickly add some color. Let's try some of these. Oh, look at that. Perfect. So these are water-soluble oil pastels. I don't use them a lot, but they are fun to play with. They have pretty nice colors. And adding the crayon on here, again, that sense of nostalgia, that sense of looking back, my love of coloring from a very, very small age all the way through now to adulthood. So when I started down the path of thinking about home and sacred space, that's not what I was thinking about was nostalgia. I'm thinking about where am I now and what's important, but that's what is intuitively coming up. And so I'm just going with that flow, right? I am creating what is presenting itself and letting it be rather than trying to dictate it. All right, look at that. Isn't that fascinating? Not water soluble on the tag, pretty much at all. All right, so let's clear gesso. What happens if we put a little matte medium over the top of that? Let's see if we can get that to spread around a little bit. This is one of the things I really love about, not so much, okay, creating with tags is the opportunity to play on a small substrate, try lots of different things, combine lots of different things, and not feel like too attached to anything, right? Because they're just tags. All right, let's get some things growing along the edges of our window here. And I think that's going to make this a little more magical. All right, get these words down on here. All right, kind of want that to be more there. And sometimes, one tag, you could spend hours or days creating this. You want to come say hello too? Hi, Diego. Oh, here's my big boy. Here, I'm going to change my camera back so you guys can see. Look at my giant. He is such a big, chunky boy. And he is such a snuggle bug. And he is on a wild tear this morning. Okay, I'm loving some really, again, it's these sort of oranges that I'm feeling attracted to. And he's purring. So sweet. Oh, and I love this swallow. I think I might need that swallow. So one of my favorite things here, so this is my third spring, is when the swallows come back, and they just came back. He is solid. Yes, very solid. Yes, the vet says he is not allowed to gain any weight, and George is not allowed to lose any weight, and he is the cat that just always thinks he's dying of starvation. He is such a little beggar. And he's so cute. One day my son came over, and Connor often watches them when I travel, when Brad and I are both traveling. And I think he just loves Connor. And he put his little paws up on Connor's leg like a toddler, reaching his arms up to be held and picked up. I've never seen a cat ask to be picked up like this one. Cracked me up. Okay, loving the way this is coming along. Let's get this little swallow out of here and see what we can do with it. Maybe it's not a butterfly, maybe it's a swallow. But one of my favorite places to walk, we have all these irrigation ditches here, and the swallows nest under the bridges, and they're back. And I love listening to them chitter chatter as they fly in and out, picking up mud from the stream, or they catch bugs to feed their babies. Nope, not that one. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Okay, starting to come to life, a little more interesting as we're looking through the lens of vigorous delights into this beautiful sacred space that I call home. This definitely needs some paint. It needs some solid color. This is not working for me as it is. Okay, I am also going to find a butterfly, like the swallow. Where's the swallow? Swallow needs a home. Okay, swallow. Yes, buddy, I know. They are so predictable, my kitties. They get the zoomies at pretty much the same time every morning. Once they've had their breakfast, and I can hear them because I'm in an unfinished basement. There's no insulation between me and the floor above. I can hear them zooming across the floor. So I'm fussy cutting this, but not 100%. I'm leaving that little blue edge around there because that's going to make it stand out a little bit more. But I also want the swallow to be flying into the picture, not out of the picture. Okay, feels like it's coming together. Trying to decide if I want to get rid of a little more of this. I'm going to go for it, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking because I kind of like all that leafy green stuff, but I want to see my mountains there. All right. Still need some paint on there, which of course is on the other side of the studio. Or how about if we come in here with a Derwent? Since I have that right beside me, I just want that color, oh, that's better, smoothed out, a little more solid, not so crayon-y. I want it to catch kind of that vibrancy of where I live, but maybe a little less of the sketchiness. I want it because I think I want it to be solid like a window frame. Derwent Inktense sticks and pencils are one of my absolutely favorite tools. Okay, that's a little bit better. And that will definitely happily spread around on here. Get in all those little nooks and crannies, and we'll give this a little bit of orange to kind of, oops, got off the screen again, sorry about that. Those little nooks and crannies. Orange on the bottom to make it feel incorporated. So now it's feeling a little more fun, a little more lively, a little more intentional. Oh, you could go over here, then I'll have to lose you. Okay, that feels good. It feels like everything is growing and blooming, and that's how it feels in a home. When I'm happy in a home, it feels like looking into this magic wonderland, this magical space. All right, so while that dries, I'm going to look at some of these fun things and see what else we can create. I'm thinking this is going to have some kind of fun quote on the back that I will do on my typewriter because Lisa reminded me to use my typewriter. And now I got to figure out how to get this together. There was a fabulous art resale shop in a little town not far away from here. And we got all these, there we go, amazing bits and bobs and pieces, like where people had knitted or crocheted things and had leftover bits. And so they were very inexpensive, and we bought probably way more than we need for our retreat, but boy did we have fun shopping. We being me and my friend Leslie Typrin, who is coming to lead this retreat with me. I couldn't be more excited. Okay, don't want that one that long, so can we go one more time? These are so fun, they almost look like little feathers on there. And this is adding that sort of just that little personal sacred touch, making it a little bit different, also adding in the texture, that sort of mixed media textural elements that I love. It's still a little bit wet on there. Normally I would just tie all the ribbons through, but I had this little extra piece, so we're going to try a fun experiment and see what it looks like to add this extra little bit on here. It's looking very busy and very colorful, which if you came to my home, it is very colorful with both my own art and, art that we've been gifted or purchased over the years. Okay, loving all the happy textures. And for me, bringing the outside in is one of those things that adds that sacred element. So I am going to add this feather on here as well. And then we'll see if we're going to add some beads, and definitely need to get that unicorn in there since this has become something about nostalgia. All right, you go that way. All right, it wants to curl up, so curling up is how it's going to go. So I'm just tying that directly on there. Sometimes, depending, like this is a very fine feather, sometimes I might wrap it with the yarn or with some thread, but loving how this is coming together to really express the nostalgia, but also the creative and the sacred of what home means to me, right? I'm not trying to recreate my home. I'm simply imagining, how does home feel? How does home feel? I don't know, maybe this is going to find its place down here. Well, that's kind of interesting. Still not sure. It really wants to be on there, but it's just not quite working. Bye, Lisa. Have a great day. All right, so let's get our unicorn charm. And I also have some keys because we can't have home without having a key to unlock the door, let people in. So I also have these on here. I love this little yarn. I think I could just tie this little guy right on here. So there's our little unicorn. Let's see, we got another one of there. I didn't even have to do any stitching, even better. I think I really want that key to be up at the top. All right, it's coming together. Feels homey and a little cluttered, a little colorful, a lot of nature, sort of bringing that outside in. Got our unicorn on there. I think I want that key to be more up there at the top. I don't know if I can get this through there or not. We're going to see. Aha! Success. So when you're working with mixed media, don't be afraid to look around and see what do you have that you're not using and how could you incorporate it into your art. Okay, I'm going to make sure that's tied on there. All right, so this is my intuitive mixed media tag about home and creating that sacred space. What I love is all the movable parts, right? I still even really love this, so I could even take that frame off and still have these pieces. What I love about the dangly bits is, they will go to the back as well, so I can always have that quote here on the back, right? So there's something that just starts to feel yummy to me. Not everyone likes all these playful dangly bits, but I do. They're super, super fun. I may add a little bit more color or something, or brighten up that blue with a little posca paint to make it feel a little more aligned. I love that little swallow there. Needs one more little bunch of flowers, so I'm gonna hunt a little bit for those final images. I don't have them right here, but they will come. So I invite you today to just sit with this idea of what does home mean to you? How is your home's sacred space? Is your home a place you want to be? What could you shift or change to treat your home with a little more reverence? If your house is feeling too cluttered right now, it's hard to see the magic, the sacred. And so a little decluttering can bring back some of the reverence for the space you inhabit and for yourself as well. Maybe what it needs is one of these little pink trees here just to finish it up. Kind of pull that pink in a little bit. I'm just going to cut that off straight. Georgia, you're back. Okay, I think that's what it needed, was kind of sort of pulling some of that little bit of pink back in. Even a little bit of that green here in the front. I see you, silly girl. All right, now it is complete for now. It needs a quote here on it. Can't wait, Judy. So excited. And it feels good. This was fun. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I will be back Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time as usual. And I want to work with the new set of art journal intuitive collage prompts that I created and start to have some fun with some of those. So I will see you guys back here bright and early on Thursday morning. Have a beautiful rest of your day, my friends, and spend a little time looking around today and thinking about what does home mean to you. Have a great day, everybody.